Working Dragon Mystic, where we discuss real metaphysical and occult knowledge so you can manifest real and tangible results in your life. This week in our community live discussion, we're going to be discussing the Dragon of the Autumn Equinox, Harb-alancee. I do occasionally pronounce it Harb-alancee, and that's because she has allowed me to pronounce it that way a time or two, and I've worked with her for so many years. I tend to go with the more familiar name as to the proper name. Her proper name, let me get that clear. Her proper name that you should call her until you've worked with her probably at least one season fully, and until she gives you permission, is Harb-alancee. So Harb-alancee, not Harb-alancee. Okay. That last bit she gets picky about from time to time. So do understand that. Now, first off, this is an absolutely beautiful dragon. I did put a picture in here. We put a picture in the newsletter as well, a different picture. Honestly, as good looking as those pictures are, they don't really do justice. This dragon, her scale pattern is literally the yellows, the oranges, the browns, all the beautiful cascading colors of autumn. If you've ever seen if you've ever been around Kentucky, woodland area in autumn where it's just a kaleidoscope of those beautiful autumn colors, that is her scale pattern. She does usually show up as a European style body frame dragon, I'd say size of a large house or mansion. She's a pretty big dragon, but at the same time, absolutely gorgeous colors. And anytime she's around, myself and the people who's worked with her, they automatically can smell autumn. And when I say autumn, think harvested fields, that cool air, the leaves in the air, dead leaves on the ground, that kind of autumny air smell. And in some cases, yes, you're going to smell like cranberries or pumpkins and stuff like that. Now, I should state, when I say pumpkins, I mean pumpkins, the actual pumpkin, not pumpkin spice lattes or any of that. That has nothing to do with it. Okay, so sorry, pumpkin spice latte is not one of the things that's technically associated with autumn here. Just so we know that. Now that we got that out of the way, we are recording this live, so I do have some people here in chat. So if you see me looking over trying to read, that will be why. I'll be trying to take questions from them as we go. When it comes to solstice and equinox dragons, there are 4 of them. We will be covering them in some detail. We're going to be touching on them, teaching you how to start working with them if you so choose. They do function differently from other dragons, and there's very specific ways that you work with them as compared to other dragons. The pro to this is you don't have to have a guardian dragon, you don't have to have a co-magician, and you don't have to have worked with the rulers before like a lot of other dragons. These are dragons you can approach as long as you meet their specific criteria without technically practicing dragon magic beforehand, which is kind of handy for a lot of people. Okay. That being said, they are very specific on the criteria for working with them, even though they're open to anyone, right? And we're going to be going into that. Also, at the community for supporters, we will also be doing a full deep dive workshop in how to work with her on specific topics and stuff in areas that she works with this month. So we're going to go even deeper in the supporter area after this. All right. So let's get into this. So first off, she doesn't have a sigil. If you're looking for a sigil for Harb-alancee, she doesn't have it. None of the solstice or equinox dragons have sigils. And that's because of how you do contact them. So when you do contact them, you do need to do a ritual or something to clear the space and everything. They prefer it to be the Dragon's Flame ritual. I can attest that I've used the Draconic Lesser Banishing ritual from the channel. That has also worked. I've not tried the Hammerite or anything like that. I've also not tried the traditional lesser banishing ritual. I haven't. So I did try just a traditional, basic, generic circle for setting space, and that worked okay. Wasn't a stronger connection, but it did work okay. I can say that much. Um, that being said, however, you do need some way to actually reach out and connect to this dragon. So obviously, you are going to call out to her by name, which is Herb-alancee. Uh, and usually I just would say, Herb-alancee, join me here and now in this place and grace me with your presence, something like that. Write it yourself, make sure it makes sense to you, make sure it's grateful, it's not forceful, it's polite, it's respectful, but it needs to make sense to you. You can use mine if it makes sense and you're comfortable with it. That being said, when you are calling her, the way you contact any of these dragons is you must embody the season. Okay. So in her case, you can only work with her from the autumn equinox to the winter solstice. That is the only time this dragon is contactable. Okay. So technically speaking, we're not quite at the autumn equinox at the time we're doing this workshop. Give me a second. I'll give everyone the date for the autumn equinox is September 22nd of 2025 for this year. So that will be the first day you'll actually be able to reach out and contact this dragon up till the winter solstice. Okay. So make sure you are aware of that. So you have a bit of time to prep your calling and everything if you would want to. That being said, sorry. That being said, what she is focused on, what you need to embody, what you need to look at is that ideal of the autumn equinox, right? So she has often said that her sigil, even though she doesn't have a sigil, a physical sigil in the term, she's playing with the word here, is the embodiment of gratitude, balance, harmony, and transition. Okay. Now, these are very key components to the autumn season, right? Autumn is a time when we are starting to bring in the harvest. We are starting to prepare for the future. We are trying to make sure everything's in order, everything's in harmony, because we're about to hit a very harsh time. In most cases, winters are very, very harsh. And not only do you need to look at what you have, you need to make sure everything's balanced out and ready, but you also need to be grateful what you have. If you go into a harsh season without a sense of gratitude and thankfulness for where you are and what you have and what you've already gained, those darker times and seasons, they're 3 times harder, period. Okay. So you need to make sure you're getting a hold of that gratitude, that balance and harmony and transition. Now, this is hard for a lot of people. It is very, very hard for someone going through a hard time or having a rough spot in their life to be grateful. It is hard to find harmony in oneself when we're struggling with problems. That is okay. You can embody that ideal of the season. You can look forward to it. You can even put the intent of finding harmony in. But you need to be there and you need to be welcoming transition. You can't be fighting transition. Transition's a whole part of this, right? So you can't be fighting it. So those are the things you need to focus on after you do the Dragon's Flame ritual. You need to sit down. You need to get your mind on gratitude, what you're thankful for. You need to work on balancing yourself out. Make sure you're in good balance. You're not all wonky and all over the place. Look at where you can bring harmony to your life. Where is harmony in your life? Where can you seek harmony in your life? So you don't have to be in perfect harmony, and literally see a almost looking forward to the transition to come. Does that make sense? Looking forward to that transition to come. All right, let's see if we got any questions. Scoob, just curious, if you're south of the equator, would you instead have access to the spring equinox dragon after that time? You would have access to the actual season it is. So I do believe it would be spring south of the equator. So if you're south of the equator, you would be working with that. Okay. I'll admit my notes do not equate that. So because I forgot to look off that. I looked everything from the northern hemisphere. So if you're south of the equator, just know that this will be for your autumn. Okay. I'm in the US north of the equator. Sorry. Good point though, Scoop. All right. So now we've talked about how you're going to reach out and get in touch with this dragon and meditate. Now, why would you want to work with this dragon? First off, straight up, um, get in tune with the rhythm of the seasons, right? People forget how important the rhythm of Mother Nature and the seasons is. This day and age in modern society, I would say 90% of people are completely detached from the rhythm of the seasons. We are in our little houses of plaster and wood and air conditioning and heaters and electricity, and we really don't pay much mind to the transition of the seasons, other than either A, what we're looking forward to. Maybe you go fishing, hunting, or swimming, and you're looking forward to summer so you can do that. Or we look to its inconvenience because it gets cold and wet. And we're not really very in tune with that rhythm because we really don't give a crap about nature. We live in our little artificial environments. That is kind of one of the reasons you would want to work with her, is to get back in touch with those rhythms, spend time in those rhythms. And I would even encourage you to go outside and spend time with those rhythms as well. Now, if you can't do rituals outside, do the ritual inside. Contact with her. Let them know that you want to meditate with those energies outside someplace, even if it's just sitting on your porch in your patio chair, or sitting on the ground at your college, leaning next to a tree. Because then she knows that when you go to that location and begin that meditation, that's her cue to step up. And honestly, also, when you contact her, let her know you'd like to work with her the whole season, if that's true, because then she's going to continue this working the whole time. So she's going to essentially be walking along with you throughout the season, and she will speak to you throughout the season if you're willing to listen. Now, that doesn't mean do the ritual once and don't do it again. That would be slightly disrespectful, but it is handy because you can do it once or twice a week. And on your lunch break, whatever, whenever you can get outside, take a few deep breaths, do some meditations, you could easily do it without having to do a full ritual. Okay. So that is one of the nice things. Now, that is honestly getting outside, meditating, breathing in that wonderful autumn air is great. Now, I will say, if pumpkin spice season is one of your big hoopalas about autumn, there's nothing wrong with sitting down with a pumpkin spice, sipping on it as you meditate and take in the autumn rhythm. Okay. There isn't. It's just not one of the things that will help you connect to her, but it is still an autumn thing for a lot of people. Okay. I hope that separation makes sense. But that's for just helping you get in tune for the season. You listen to her, you seek wisdom and guidance on the season. That's great. Honestly, some people, that may be all you ever want to do, right? I understand that. However, let's talk about areas, specialty areas where she is excellent at helping you focus. This is stuff you don't have to go outside unless you want to, but is excellent for helping you work in rituals and spell working on, right? The first one, shadow work. Absolutely a banger for this time of year. I do shadow work every year, and I start my shadow working literally from the autumn equinox into the winter solstice. I always do a nice half year shadow work through there, and I do some mass deep dive rituals right around Halloween and the Day of the Dead and stuff like that, that also dives into very specific shadow work areas. but I'm doing a full shadow work every year on myself during that period. And I love to work with Herbalance on that. She is definitely one of the entities I spend a lot of time working with in that area. Like I said, I'm pretty familiar with her. And because of that, she's actually one of the solstice and equinox dragons I work with the most. Um, so I think that's pretty cool. So there is that. Okay. Shadow work. Absolutely great. You can sit down, talk with her, and actually seek advice and help on shadow work. And she has given me some amazing rituals in and of themselves. And some of those rituals that she's taught me, I will be covering in the workshop. The next area she is amazing at dealing in, and I think everyone loves this one, right? I get emails all the time on this one. Prosperity, right? We're talking about the time of harvest, the time of abundance. She loves some prosperity, right? She is all about reaping that abundance and bringing in all that abundance. So prosperity magic with her is amazing. And yeah, she's real good at it, and she's a lot of fun to work with during it. Next one, and this one a lot of people don't see the benefit of, but I do highly recommend it. Gratitude and thankfulness. She is amazing at showing you what you have, what you should be thankful for. There are most people I know this day and age literally cannot think of things to be thankful for. They cannot think of things that they are blessed with. They're so focused on everything they don't have, or they're so focused on their stress or consumed by it, they genuinely can't take a breather and see the blessings they have and what they do have to be thankful for. And that's sad, because I'll tell you right now, when you are stressed, when you're at the end of your rope, taking the time to see what you have is the easiest way to get back on your feet, get your head clear, get centered, and really rally and come back at it. Because trust me, it's not as dark as you think it is. It really isn't. And she is fantastic at that. Um, Immortal asked, does she have any dragons assisting her? And if so, how do they do that? Um, she does have a few dragons that assist her, but they don't work with humans. They assist her. They're all in the background. So you might see them moving amongst trees or in nature when you are working with her, but they will, for the most part, ignore you. In truth, they will ignore you. They occasionally might shoot you a head nod, or a thumbs up or a wink, or stick their tongue out at you. Basically let you know they've seen you in some way, but outside they will ignore you. The most I've ever had one say to me was move, like literally move. You're in my way. They really don't give a shit. So you will be working directly with her, just so you know. That is a good question, though. That's a good question. Um, see, Ethan, can we get her help alongside Well on the Prosperity Project? So for those who are in the community, we are running a project, a deep dive with hard data and Magick, working with Well. Yes, you could actually work with her alongside with that project. Yes. Her and Well do get along quite well. Sometimes they can get rowdy though. Not in a bad, well, it depends on what you mean. I would say not in a bad way. They love to pull pranks on each other a lot. So there's that. And they do slightly differ in their viewpoints of prosperity, but at the same time, they jive. They get along pretty good. So just be prepared for some dragon shenanigans if you do so. I find it fun. If you find shenanigans overly stressful, you might not want to. Might not want to. And one of the reasons for that is actually this dragon. She's actually a water dragon, where Well's an earth dragon. So they're actually they're not quite the same element, but they're still working in the prosperity areas together. So this is actually a water dragon. Which is quite cool, because when you see her, you see all those earthy tones and notes about her. You think earth dragon, yet she's a water dragon. It's really freaking cool. Um, let's see. Okay. Um, the next area that she's great at, and this is another one I do yearly, home protection magic. She is amazing that help you fortify your home protections. We recently did a workshop on wards, right? We know wards need regular maintenance, right? I make a point to get her to help charge my wards every year because, yeah, sure, I can work with the rulers and do it. I absolutely can. But home protection is it's a great thing to do, especially around this season. But at the same time, when we're working with the wards and we're discussing home protection, she will also point out things I didn't see. Like she's actually pointed out where there's drafts and stuff that I could seal up with some caulking or something in order to lower my heating bill, for example. Like she, while you're working in those areas, yeah, I'm just charging my ward. She's paying attention to the other crap. And then afterwards, she's like, okay, here's what I noticed. And she goes through a little checklist and wants me to take care of it. I love that personally. And I think it's fun. So, yes, she can add a bit to your home protection. Of course, harmony, that's going to be in there, right? She can help you if you are in a chaotic lack of harmony state, overly stressed. She can actually help you to do magic to find that harmony in your life, find that rhythm that you need. That doesn't mean she's going to take away the stressors. Stressors are a natural part of life. I'm sorry. But finding harmony within that mechanism that is life, that she can help you with. And much like many other dragons, balance. She can help you balance things out. I know harmony and balance is often like, what the hell's the difference? There is a difference in harmony and balance. There are people who can live in very chaotic states and they can live in harmony with it. And it is a very out of balance state. Okay. It is very out of balance. But she can help you with balancing and balancing yourself is usually where dragons focus. What's out of balance in your life, she can help you find that if you feel something is out of balance. And if it is, she can also help you find ways to restore the balance if necessary. Okay. Um, of course, abundance. She also deals with abundance magic. Now, abundance usually comes from the fact that this is a time of year of harvest and bringing in that abundance, right? So this is the time of year where you're pulling everything out of the fields traditionally. You're using what you can use. You're storing up what you can't use. So you have food and have supplies for the winter. But that same concept of abundance does still apply to magic. So if you're running thin in something or any area of life and you want to build more abundance in that, you could do so. Abundance doesn't actually, it is often very separated from prosperity. There is some overlap, but she's very, very insistent that you separate the two because prosperity is, as she puts it, it's more like a constant flowing stream, where abundance is a well supplied warehouse. That's the viewpoint she takes on it. And lastly, this is one a lot of people have trouble with: transitions. Most people don't like change, period. You can call this change, and it can very well be changed, but she can help with transitions. Now, traditionally, she's talking about natural cycling transitions. This can be the changing of the seasons. This can be the transition from life to death if you've lost a loved one. Many of you know I have lost a loved one this year, and I will be talking to her about that, in fact. But she deals with transitions of any kind. If you're transitioning from high school to college, talk to her. If you're in the military and you're transitioning from active duty to civilian, freaking awesome to talk to her. I know a lot of service members who have talked to her about that. If you're transitioning from, let's say you've not been in school forever and you're going back to school, that's a transition. You can see what I mean. If you're transitioning from one job to another, anything that is that shift or that change from the norm of your day to day, that will count as a transition. And she can be an amazing dragon to gain insight and advice on how to do it, as well as to work with to make that transition easier. Here's the kicker. Whatever working you do with her, whatever working you do for any reason at all, I don't care what it is, make sure you complete the working by the winter solstice. Because if you, let's say you're going to, I don't know what the school seasons are. Let's say February. Let's say you're going to go to school in February. You can do everything so that she can help you with that transition. Her help ends at the winter solstice. So you're going to have a few months there where you're on your own, right? She can do a lot in that period. That's true, but she won't continue past that. Okay. Her work, her influence is specifically there. So any shadow work you're working with her needs to end on the winter solstice. Any of that thing. And I don't mean the winter solstice or the day after. She's very specific. The sun comes up the day after the winter solstice. She retires for the year. She going back to bed. Good night. Don't wake her up till next year. Okay. Matthias asks, I'm assuming relationships count in those transitions. Absolutely. Whether it's a breakup or a change in the arrangement of your relationship, that is a transition, right? So you could be going from, seeing each other, kind of dating, to official, monogamous, 100% locked in and committed to each other. That's a transition. You could be thinking of popping the question and going from boyfriend and girlfriend to fiance. That's a transition. Technically, fiance to wedding days, a transition. And I have seen her help people with those transitions. Because I've seen a lot of people, men and women, freak the hell out as it gets closer to the day. And I'm not knocking it. Like, there's a lot of reasons to highly consider relationships. So those are definitely factors. And breakups, straight up breakups. She's really kind of good at helping with breakups. In fact, she's so good at it, it's kind of shitty that she really just kind of fits into that small window between the equinox and the solstice, because she'd be a really great person to have year round for that. I'm just saying. But if you're lucky enough, in this example, because breakups suck, if you're lucky enough that the breakup occurs where you can, ride that whole time, that'd be great. So yeah, there we go. Of course, we do know that. Well, I mean, technically speaking, like, she's not napping. She does move. She does still work with the spring and the southern solstice. So she does. Well, it's still a long nap because she gets winter and summer to nap. But yeah. So there you go with that. Say, Matthias, not one in one myself, but figured it was worth asking. Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. And honestly, I'll admit, I don't think about relationships too much. I've been in a really good one for so long. It's just, yeah, it's not a transition thing I have to deal with unless one of my friends is dealing with it, and then they bring it to me. Which, don't get me wrong, I love to help my friends through anything that they're dealing with. I try to help them where I can. Yeah, I'm just also not a real drama guy. So maybe that's why they like having my help, is I stay logical about the whole thing. Maybe. I don't know. So yeah, there we go. That is Harb-alancee, the dragon of the autumn equinox. Now, like I said, for contacting her, when you get down in that meditation, the hard part, this is hard for a lot of people to embody the season, because you got to embody that gratitude, that harmony, that balance, and that natural transition, that unavoidable transition. And that is hard. People don't like change, but that's really what you got to get to. Some of the tricks to getting into that state, that I have found, from my work and some students' work: focus on the holidays and the emotions that come with the holidays that you enjoy here. So I'm not going to speak for globally, but in America, we got Thanksgiving, we got Halloween. Focus on those things, those feelings, the joy and everything that comes with it, right? Focus on all those positive things and emotions that time of year. For me, I also focus on the colors of the trees. I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains. That kaleidoscope of colors is one of the most beautiful things on the planet. I also focus on the smell of autumn air. Anyone who's ever been in the mountains in the autumn, they know what I mean when I say those. The smell of the leaves on the ground and the changing leaves, that autumn crisp air, the earthiness of the leaves that are starting to break down on the ground. There's nothing like it to me. Same thing with, like, if you've ever been near a cornfield that's in autumn, they're getting ready, it's drying out and everything, they do the corn mazes. There's a very distinct earthiness about that cornfield too. That is another smell that comes to mind. Even kind of a good barn, like a good barn smell. Because again, I grew up on a farm, so the way a barn smells in autumn is another amazing thing to me that I lock onto. At the same time, when I'm thinking Thanksgiving, I do think of, the good times I had with family, the food, the smell, like the whole house smelling of Thanksgiving, because my wife or my mom was always cooking Thanksgiving dinner and stuff like that. Those are things I lock onto while seeking that gratitude. And I do also, while trying to connect with her, I purposely think of, what am I grateful for? What am I genuinely grateful for that just makes me beam, just lights me up? And those really do help. And for the transition, I look at, what am I looking forward to? What do I have to be grateful for that's coming up? Like, I tie that gratitude in with that transition to help me through that transition period. And that's kind of important for me, because as much as I love winter, I also hate people driving in the snow because they can't do it. Everywhere I've ever lived, except in the South, people don't know how to drive in the snow. So I've gotten to the point as an adult where when it snows, I get grumpy because people around me are idiots. So I have to, as much as I love the season of winter, I also have to, when that snow hits, it's not really winter until the winter solstice, but as the snow and everything starts hitting us, I got to focus a bit more on what I have to look forward to in this transition period. Okay. So just a few little tips that you might want to borrow if you can. Okay. Everybody, with that, we will get out of here. If you want to join us live for any of our weekly topics, check us out at workingdragonmystic.com. You can find the online community tab there, or you can check the links below. We do have the Working Dragon Mystic community down there. It's absolutely free to join the community and take part in these lives. Absolutely free. If you want to get additional perk, get free access to all the live workshops, monthly spell workings, and supporter-only live chats, and much, much more, there's a supporter area. You can choose to support the work we do for only $10 a month. It gives you access to the entire catalog of Working Dragon Mystic courses, as well as access to all of the live workshops that we do and the replays. So you can even take notes for them, which is kind of nice. All right. Until next time, everybody, you take care. Have a wonderful season. See you next time. Bye-bye.